Ryan, how you doing?
What's up, homie? How are you?
Good. We're live here with the audience, and we'll get started. We're gonna get to your schedule in just a second, but this is a little tight.
Hey,
So
the good news is I got Reed Hastings from Netflix in the other room, and I said, hey, don't worry, I gotta jam out because I gotta jump on. He was like, cool, don't worry.
Totally understand.
It's all right.
Yeah, we're really grateful to have you, and as
No
people
worries.
are starting to come in, just a real quick intro here. Welcome to the Startup Office Hours. We have more than 1,000 people that signed up for this. So excited to have Ryan, and going to introduce him in just a second. Huge thanks to our partners today, Microsoft, for being part of this and making this possible with their partnership with us and helping our community. There's a $10,000 credit that they're giving you to use all the Office products. You don't have to use it today, but you can sign up for it today and get access to it. So please do that. In the chat, there's a link that will direct you where to do that. You know what Startup Grind is? We literally, if you look in the chat, we have people from all over the world, Kenya, London, the Bay Area, all across the world that have come and have given questions, and super excited to have them and to have Ryan, literally the best person in the world to answer questions for entrepreneurs, as the co-founder of Qualtrics, the world's preeminent platform for experience management, as well as the co-owner of the Utah Jazz. He's a decent golf player and basketball player as well. And we're so grateful to have you. You're literally coming off stage at Silicon Slopes. Big event. I saw some coverage of that. It looks great. You're at the Delta Center, is that right? Or you're in the?
I'm in one of the suites at the Delta Center, right across from the locker room here. So
Busy day, and you're interviewing Reed Hastings. What did you just do?
in an hour. I just did Gary V. We just kicked it off, and but look, you should be here.
Yeah,
you know how events work. You just go. Like, we just launched Jazz Plus this morning, which is our new streaming app.
Tell us about that. Tell us, for those that don't know, what is Jazz Plus and how is it changing fan experience in the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, look, I think that when I took over, we were part of a 10-year media deal where we were showing our games to 1.2 million of the 3.2 million people in Utah, and not doing a whole lot outside. And, I come from the experience world. That's not a great fan experience. And, it's probably relevant for our conversation today. Is like, if you focus on the experience, then a lot of things can solve itself, but you got to be willing to go do it. So we ripped up our media deal, which was, they were paying us a lot of money, and said, we're going to go direct to the fans. And by the way, all the fans are not the same. It's not just fans. You've got people on their lazy boys. You've got people on their phones, people on their iPads, people on the move and unpredictable. So we created a package for every single one of them. So we first went over air. So if you've got bunny ears or rabbit ears on your TV, you can watch games. Then we just stood up a streaming option where you can pay by the game or by the season. And if you pay by the season, you get tickets and some swag. And now we're going out of market. So we're going into Idaho, Wyoming, and part of Washington. And we basically signed 5 media deals. But more than that, we just said we're in the media business. So we stood up a production company, and we're going to be doing media. Like really doing it. Like, we're shooting our own content. We're releasing, we're going to have cameras all over practice and everything else. And I think, yesterday I just did a shooting show with our head coach. It's like carpool karaoke, but he shoots free throws with it. Like, no one's ever done that before. And by the way, he likes it. All of our players are getting pressure to build their own brands anyways and content. So why can't we help them?
Yeah.
And so anyways, that's all this morning. But I think it's just more like, Derek, you understand this. Like, this is life. If you are going to be in tech and you are going to run and you are going to try to do things that you all want to do where you make impact, like, you just have to say yes and go.
Yeah.
And you never know what you're doing that hits. You never know what something's going to be. Some of
Yeah.
the coolest things I thought I was going to do turned out to be the dumbest and not the most impressive. And some of the things that I thought were dumb, I can't believe I'm saying yes to this, turned out to be the coolest. Right. And build lifelong friendships. So you kind of in the game or you're not. And so that's kind of how I live. And it's crazy at sometimes, but you just pack it all in.
Well, just one thought on Jazz Plus before we move to some of these questions from entrepreneurs is that one of the things I thought was super cool about it is this idea that you kind of bring the in arena, the in fan experience with the digital experience, and you're putting those things together. And as somebody who remembers vividly when my dad went and waited in line for Jazz tickets for the Delta Center in high school and went to those games, it's as a fan, first of all, it's of the NBA, you're doing things that haven't been done, and you're sort of leading the way across the entire NBA, and I'm sure it's going to be replicated over and over again. But two, for the Jazz fans, it's not just people in Utah; it's people in the neighboring states. It's it's just been a really inspiring thing to see, in spite of maybe the financial short-term hit that it takes to the Jazz organization. It's just a very fan-centric move, which I'm sure will end up paying off and just make it a lot easier for people to cheer for the team they love. So
yeah, like I view it as, I mean, we're a big brand. We're definitely the biggest media company and brand in the state of Utah. It's very rare that you get a chance to work on a startup, it feels like, where you're actually branding a state and a team. I mean, we're one of the only teams that have a state on the jersey, Utah. It's not a city. And, I walk in and first thing Reed Hastings says was, I just bought Jazz Plus streaming. And I was like, okay, the founder of streaming just bought streaming app. Like, I feel like we've arrived. So that's good. It's good. I'm in his business and he's now in ours. So it's good. It's good. All right.
Let's go. We're going to try and move through these fast. We've got way more than we'll get to. We're going to go for about 30 minutes, and then we're going to let you get ready for your interview with Reed. The first one is from Sean, who's the founder of Beam Technologies. Our startup has an MVP developed and planning for user testing trials. At what point do we begin fundraising, or at the least open discussions with potential investors?
Yeah, so I'll caveat this is, like, if you understand the Qualtrics story, we had 36 million in revenue and we're making $24 million a year in cash flow before we raised venture capital. And for some people that seems like pretty bonkers, but actually, if I told you never could raise venture capital and you still had to go develop an MVP and go through this, what would you say? My guess is half the entrepreneurs who were sitting here with questions would figure it out anyways. And you'd end up with, I don't know, when Qualtrics sold in 2018, we probably had 40% more of our company than we probably should have. And we were able to stay private at least 10 years longer than we should have. And the wealth creation that we had for our employee base was at least 700, 800% more than it would have been. And I also believe that from a customer standpoint, like, we were able to achieve our mission much more. I was looking at a company this week who was raising their Series A, and the founders had already sold 60% of their company, and they were about to drop down another 15%. I said, you guys realize that you have $3 million in revenue and you've already sold more of your company than Qualtrics has. And so, like, I believe that entrepreneurs will figure it out over time. I believe that two things happen when they don't. Number one, they're in the wrong space, or they just need more time. or they've made decisions financially that limit their space or their time. And if you look at Stuart from Slack and my friends at Excel who backed him for his gaming company, and then he was going to give back the $5 million. And he's like, well, we kind of developed this little chat product that we think was good. Like, could we take the 5 million and go market that? Like, he just needed time and runway to go figure that out. I don't know if your MVP is good. You don't know if your MVP is good. You don't know what's going to happen when you get out there. I don't know that any money is going to help you solve what's going to happen that you get out there. Actually, what's going to solve helping you get out there is actually getting out there and doing it. And so my thought is fundraising is a massive distraction. If you have a technical founder with you, then you can actually build stuff. Now, angel money and that is definitely good. If you're in AI right now, maybe you need to hustle a little bit more, and some things are time sensitive. But this idea that the competition's going to catch me, the competition's going to catch you when you're 18 years in, when you're 20 years in. You're going to be in a constant heavyweight battle with your competition for 12 rounds. There's no escape velocity from the competition. It's not going to happen. Like, you're going to develop your good idea, the competition's going to come. Like, this is just part of it. Sorry about the techno music in the background. That's part of the Silicon Slopes event. It's just not my job. So I hope this is really hard for me, but like, the longer you can go without raising money, the better your fundraising and the better the prospects and the better your longevity is going to be. Period. Hard stop. And this is coming from someone who writes a lot of checks. Like, I would rather, we rolled into Silicon Valley and they were like, whoa, where'd you guys come from out of Utah? And, that's kind of my thought.
And it really should be at a time when you actually need it. I mean, that's the thing where you hear a lot of entrepreneurs say, I can't do this without money. And it's like, no, actually, like, the money should fuel what you're already going to do.
We have the nail it, the scale it, right? You need to nail your product. You need to nail your fit. You need to nail everything. And then you use the money to help you scale it. Scaling's easy. It's actually super easy to hire 2,000 people in a year.
Yeah.
The amount of companies who have done it, like, it's crazy. What's hard is to actually nail it so that you know that when I hire those 2,000 people are going on. When you're in the nailing it phase, money doesn't really give you a competitive advantage. It actually makes you lazy, in my mind. It actually takes away the creativity. It takes away the innovation. Because those things that you do that set you apart are not money. Your competition has money. They have energy. They have smart people. It's, can you outthink them? Can you outmarket them? Can you find a niche that they don't find? And these things happen kind of organically. When you get a lot of money, it's tough to get a group of people to go and put themselves in the spots where these things happen. I personally, for example, went out and sold every major university that we signed up.
That's a question in the chat is, how did you get your first customers?
Yeah, I just went out and sold Kellogg University.
Yeah.
I went out and sold Royal Caribbean Cruise Line. I went out and convinced faculty members they need to share it with their students. And by the way, I stayed in our basement for 6 years to go do that with our company. And we couldn't hire anyone unless we actually made it. And if we signed up a customer, we couldn't lose them.
Yeah.
And I knew what customers wanted. The issue became not only what they want, but what they're willing to pay for.
Yeah.
Because, like, people will tell you what they want, but if a researcher who has a budget of a year of $5,000 isn't willing to sacrifice that because what you're offering is so valuable, for me, that was where the rubber kind of met the road, is whether they were actually willing to buy what it was, not because of the money, but because of the sacrifice.
Yeah. And it's in having those conversations, it's in meeting with those universities that you met with, it's in hearing the people that say no, where you really learn what's going to work and what's not going to work. Right. And you can kind of make, as the founder, you're not outsourcing you're getting product development feedback in the field, out of the building, on the fly, that you can then use to go back into the lab and really perfect your product. Because as you say, I mean, that was a really thoughtful insight I've never really heard anyone say, which is scaling's actually easy. But what that also means is that building that initial core product that people love and it's going to be, widely used and accepted, that's the really hard part. You got to really make sure you nail that. And then it's easy to scale once you need to scale.
Yeah, we started 200. We had 200 universities before we really started scaling. Most people would have said, "Oh, we got 20. Let's go." Well, if I would have scaled at 20 and you gave me 2 years or 4 years, I got from 200 to 2,000 quicker than I would have if I would have gone 20 to 2,000, because I was that much more dialed in on and confident about where to put the money and not waste. And especially when you're early on, that money investment, like for example, you raise $10 million for 10% of your company, every $1 million you spend is 1% of your company. Like, and I know companies that'll be like, oh, we're going to do this marketing campaign that's $2 million. I was like, wait a minute, you just spent 2% of your entire company on a marketing campaign? You're going to do 200 marketing campaigns. This is crazy. And by the way, no one's going to care or hear about you anyways. Like, just go get your customers and the rest will take care of itself. And by the way, like, Derek, how long have you been doing Bevy?
Since 2016, 15. We started building the first code was in 2014.
Yeah. So you're 8 years in, right? And like, I remember you calling me wanting to raise money at this phase and at this phase. And then we actually did raise money. But I remember one time it's like you were going to raise like $3 million. And I was probably not the right guy to call because I was like, dude, for $3 million, just go sell 2 deals.
Yeah.
And you actually went out and sold in $1.5 million deal. And I was like, well, there was 5% of your company that you got for free.
Yeah. Yeah. So that whole adage that revenue solves all problems. And, what's interesting is I've been selling. This is something actually I learned from you too, is that I was talking to you, I don't know, maybe 6 months ago or something. And you were out here in the Bay Area and I'm like, what are you doing tonight? And you're like, I'm going to dinner with an executive at a company we're trying to close. And I was just like, Ryan is still closing. He's still selling deals. And that really impacted me. And actually this past week, on Friday, we closed a deal with a major brand that everyone on this call will have used. And but I pitched them in 2016, but we didn't sign them until this last week. And it doesn't stop. It doesn't stop. You're going to have to keep selling. And the feedback I got from them on the pricing and the negotiation, is going to impact us improving how we price our product, because I heard it directly and now I'm going to go fix it.
So this is interesting, Derek. You came from EA. You did startup grind. Sales is not your background.
Right.
And founders need to stop thinking that sales is sales.
Yeah.
Your role as a founder is to be in front of the customer the entire cycle. When we sold our company to SAP, nothing was crazier for me to watch the CEO of SAP get on the phone and go through every single deal across the entire company and take 20 action items. We went public. The job of that executive is to make sure that the company continues to grow. And whether you like it or not as a public CEO, you're on the line for that. So you need to understand it. Now that we've sold to private equity, watching the head of a private equity fund leverage their network to intro to CEOs all over the world who is a finance person is incredible. And I think there's sometimes this notion in Silicon Valley and everywhere else in tech that someone's going to come in and do this for you.
Yeah.
It's not happening.
Yeah.
It just doesn't happen. They're going to pull you in one way. So just understand that's part of your job description. It's not someone else's job description. as a founder, your job is to get in front of the customer through the whole life cycle, not just the product piece, because all of that is part of what you're delivering.
Yeah. Yeah. And to our fault as an industry, and I certainly got swept up in this, that like, hey, I'm just going to hire people to solve these problems. I'm just going to hire people who know more than me about it, who did it at some other company. And I remember talking to you about this one time, and you said, when we were, somebody said, that's not how we did it at our company before. And your comment was, well, that person joined that company when they were at 500 million in revenue. They didn't join when they were at 5 million revenue. They didn't do it. Like, you're going to have to go do it. And I think that's a message that you just articulated. That,
I mean, we're kicking off the Delta Center, which is our, like, no one in sports has ever brought the name of an arena back. It used to be
so
the Delta
cool.
Center here. And that deal was done with me sitting across from the CEO, Ed Bastian of Delta. He didn't outsource it.
Yeah.
He's not selling airline tickets.
Yeah.
That is a deal that we did together.
Yeah. You had the vision for it, of what it could be. Maybe some of the old Jazz fans, or a lot of them, were still calling it the Delta Center. So it was probably top of mind. But you had the vision for it. You had the creativity for it, and you went, and the two of you made that happen together.
Yep.
Yeah.
We've only gotten to one question, and we're like,
I know. I'm going back. Here we go. This is from Joseph. How do I find what makes my startup defensible so that I can't be copied, or some big company can't just do what I'm doing?
Yeah. I couldn't tell you. I mean, every time you launch a startup, you've already shown someone else what it is. And there's something serious about second mover advantage, because you get to watch someone else sit there and do it right before you. Think if you were running a drill on a sport or a math problem, and you could watch someone do it, and then you could go up next and do it, you would be a lot better than the person doing it the first time. So if that's the case, the first thing you know is, like, the original thought is very difficult. And if you come up with something, there's a lot of people who just sit on the sidelines and say, hey, what else can I copy? Because they don't know how to come up with something. That's also a good thing, because whatever you start, you're going to look back 10 years from now and say, wow, can you believe I was really excited about that? Or that was this. So original thought got you to the first idea. Everyone follows you, and you can hang a right or a left, and they're still going straight.
Yeah.
And so the person who is the orchestrator, is the creator, has the advantage. But so many times I've come up with something where I believe that one of our powers at Qualtrics, is people don't understand, is we created so many things that didn't exist. And we had a culture even now to where we actually innovate. And there's a lot of companies who don't innovate, especially in enterprise software. Yeah. And so we didn't acquire one company for 18 years. Like, everything was our innovation. And I'll never forget, we launched this new category called experience management. And we laid it out and we kicked it off. And I flew out to someone I was working with on the category design, and I said, I just set the table for everyone else to eat at.
Yeah.
And why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And he said, well, the good news is you're the one that's cooking, and they didn't set it themselves. We had an S1 that went out to go public around experience management. 3 other companies almost plagiarized our entire S1 for the market. And it's like, what side would you rather be at? But what's happened is they couldn't keep up, because they didn't know where the bus was going.
Right.
And I had them right where I wanted them, right in the back seat of the bus, where they couldn't get up and move, and they lost track of who they were because they were so enthralled by what we were doing. So the answer is, people are going to copy. You've got to think about things that are defensible. What's defensible? The experience you provide, how you go to market, the user experience. how clear you are with where you're going, your employee base. These are all defensible things that other people, where you founded your company. Utah. We're in Utah.
More IPOs than New York.
Yep. Why is that defensible? Because we can move faster. We've got people who are willing to do things that they just don't do in the Bay Area.
Yeah.
Like, call us old school. Like, there was a lot of benefit of being where we were. It wasn't that all of our employees had to go out for a dinner meeting every single night and our founders were constantly doing cocktail receptions. No, they would work and then go home and they'd be right back at it the next day early. Work didn't start at 11 a.m. It started at 8 o'clock. Like, those are defensible things, right or wrong. You know, and so find what's defensible to you, because like there was a lot less distractions not being in the tech ecosystem for us, because we didn't waste a lot of time on things that really didn't matter. Everything wasn't about networking all the time. It was about actually building a business.
And you had competitors that started before you that were more well funded than you, that were significantly bigger than you, and then you.
I remember in 2004, Derek. I remember 2004, we had a competitor who bought up the entire market and raised $40 million, and I'm sitting in a basement. They had a better product for cheaper than us. You want to talk about competition? Have someone with a better product, venture capital, cheaper than you.
Yeah,
that's competition. And like, let me give you the greatest example. There was a company here locally called Omniture, which actually now has become the Adobe Cloud, which was the analytics backbone for web traffic and web analytics. So you'd hook Omniture up to your website, and it would tell you everything that's going on and where people are clicking. Google launched Google Analytics. They bought it.
For free, right?
For free. And they went after Adobe, or Omniture at the time, who was a cloud software company and who were selling it for hundreds of thousands of dollars, and said, we're taking on Omniture. So Google Analytics is here. Omniture is here. And they said, we are taking on Omniture and we're going to give it away for free. And I'll never forget the CTO of Google saying, not only are we giving this product away for free, our number one goal is to destroy Omniture. So you have this cash flow search company looking at the CTO of Omniture going, I'm going to destroy you and I'm giving it away for free. Let's go. Every time Google would say a word, Omniture stock would go down.
Wow.
They just sunsetted Google Analytics.
Right. It's huge.
Adobe Cloud hit 13 quarters in a row. Wow. Or actually 13 years of quarters.
Wow.
Like, execution matters. That's competition. So I'm not sure if anyone in this space has that competition, and Adobe still won.
You can win, but you got to make it happen. All right, we're going to the next one. I'm delaying starting my startup because I don't feel confident until I find a tech co-founder.
Yeah, cool. Do it.
Go find one?
Yeah, just go find one. I mean, I think it's part of it. Like, that matters. It's like a band. If you know you're not going to do it, I also think that you don't need to delay. It's not like starting it. Like, go ahead and start your startup, and maybe your co-founder will join.
Yeah.
Like, it's part of it.
One piece of advice I got in this one time was to go meet with 75 engineers and take them all to lunch and beg the best 2 or 3 to work with me. And it took me like a year and a half to do that. And I ended up finding the best 2 or 3 I could find. And I begged, and I got one of them to actually work with me. He still works with me today. It's been 10 years. But those relationships, they take time. And it's a collaborative relationship, right? Like the band, like you say, it's a great analogy. Like you don't walk in, very few people in bands or artists walk in and just say, hey, here's our song, you guys play this. Like, that's not a band, right? That's like a one person, hiring people to help, to play their music. But a band is a collaboration. It's people coming together. And you had your dad as your co-founder, you had your brother as your co-founder, you had Stuart as your co-founder, and now with the Jazz, you've now got many different, co-founders as part of your partnership. And I assume, like they're all inputting in that. It's not just, hey, whatever Ryan Smith says we're going to do it. It's all these incredible people coming together to be part of it.
Yeah. I like operating with partners. I like getting smart people around me. With the Jazz, I didn't have to. And I called up Excel and Sweeney and my venture capitalists and very first thing and said, let's do this together. You backed me the whole way. Like, you're big into sports. Like, come on. Because I thought we'd be better. Grabbed Dwayne Wade. Same thing. Thought we'd be better. Now there's an ownership part and there needs to be one decision maker, but I'm not afraid of like having other people around you that are smarter than you about certain things.
All right. We're running out of time. We're on like slide 6. So, and I know there's, a dozen questions in chat. We'll try and get to a couple of them here as we let Ryan get back to another interview. But how much, if at all, should a startup rely on fractional team members? Or should it be all people that are full-time all the way in? As an example, could a COO or a CCO provide leadership and experience, even if it's not full-time?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that I 100% agree that any startup should be hiring a COO. My brother Jared and I scaled to 200 and something people with just the two of us as founders without an executive team. And I see these companies that are like 10 people with a COO, and it's like, you're dead on arrival. Like,
why is that? Why do you think that?
Because I don't understand. Like, you're going to have to develop the muscle as your startup that, like, your COO should be done when you need to actually let the CEO and the founder like focus on some deep dive areas and scale the company. So if you actually just took a step back, like, you got a founder who's tapping out of operations with 50 people.
Yeah.
Like, it's just not going to end well. Just won't. Like, the founder needs it. The founder's the one who needs the experience. The COO probably already knows how to operate, and the team needs to see the founder stretch and learn. As a founder, your job's to be the fastest learner in the building. The company needs you to scale.
Yeah.
Because only founders can do certain things. The founder impact, the founder halo, the founder understanding, the founder vision. No one is like a founder. And I've been lucky to be a founder of a company for 22 years. And like, it's massive. I just went into chairman role. And so I'm not there, but my COO took over, but I didn't hire a COO till 5 years ago.
Yeah.
The problem is like, there's no shortcuts. Like, don't look at a company 50 times your size and say, this is what we should be doing, or this is the org chart we should follow, because when that company was your size, they didn't do any of that to get there. You actually, we didn't have admins in our company until we were getting ready to go public. Like, and I just think that, like, you can all do more than you think you can. And you're going to go, and then you're going to max out and feel overwhelmed, and you're going to feel burnt out, and you're going to feel like you've hit a point. And then what's going to happen is you're going to learn, and you're going to slide over, and then you're going to readjust your priorities and your schedule yourself. And then you're going to go and you're going to run into it again when you get to 50 people. Then you're going to slide over, and then you're going to run into again when you get to 100. And as a founder, you've had that high into the right velocity, but it actually has been like that. Yeah. You need that. Don't skip it. That's what'll make you good. That's what'll make you helpful for your teammates. When someone's coming to join your company, they're betting on you to be able to have that ability to do it. And if you take that shortcut and you don't get it within that company, not another company, within that company, within that market, within that customer base, within that product, it's going to hurt you. If you do it, you will be invaluable to the company. The only reason why I still have a position to be chairman of this company is because they've asked me to. I didn't ask them. We sold the company to SAP. They asked me to. We went public. They asked me to. Why? Because I didn't have any choice but to go through that. And I understand the market. And I sold those first accounts. And I was in there and I recruited every employee with a team. And I was able to work in a team environment around, even though it was hard as heck to bring your older brother from Google, who was running Google China in 2009, and have him come work for your younger brother. And I had to check my ego at the door and let him in. And last night we had dinner together and just talking about how crazy of a ride it's been. And like, that's part of being a founder. Yeah. And it's incredible, but it's also because we were resource constrained and we had to go through it. And if I was advising my children on doing their startups, like everything I've said about raising money and going and selling and doing it and growing, a startup is such an incredible opportunity for you all to grow. Yeah. And when we sold the company and I wired $8 billion out, I had employees crying. I had venture capitalists crying because they thought the journey was over. And what I learned quickly was the journey is what you're doing as a startup. If you're in it to get in and out and make money, you're going to be disappointed when that money comes, because you can never, all you're doing is telling the stories. So it's probably a lot more than anyone bargained for on this.
You've said that, I've heard you say this over the years, that there are no shortcuts in startups. And I've tried a number of times to prove you wrong. And I have to say that every time it has resulted in significantly more pain than if I just done the thing in the first place. And so I don't see the startup. I don't see the shortcuts anymore. I don't look for them. I've been humbled enough by my mistakes to realize, like, you're just going to have to do it. And to what you just said, doing it is the whole point. And you hear this over and over again from people that have this huge financial exit, that it's pretty hollow at the end. And this will just lead to the last question, which maybe dovetails into that, and something that's also pretty unique with you and Ashley, sort of scaling. That's your tweet. Go look at Ryan's Twitter and look at his pinned tweet about how it started and how it's going now. How have you done this? How have you scaled your life while you have also scaled a startup, and now as you're, full on in the MBA?
I mean, like, I'm here interviewing. Well, my daughter's in the room next door. School classes up here at Silicon Slopes. And so I'm unapologetic about who I am and what I'm doing. But as I came up in the car with my daughter, I was on 3 or 4 calls, right? And I told her that. I said, hey, you're coming to work with Dad. We're going to see how it is, right? And then once I was done, I was like, okay, tell me everything you learned, right? Well, you were on with the MBA, you were on a Qualtrics thing, you were on this, you were doing a media launch, you were doing an interview. I said, yeah, like, you got to hustle. And I want her to see Dad hustling. That's it. And I'm probably in a point in life where I don't need to, but reality is like, I want my kids, and both my wife and I both work. Like, we want us to see our kids, like kids to see us hustling. I've never had to apologize for putting my kids first or bringing my kids around. But I also like, my number one thing is my kids need to see me working because they need to get that and hold it all together. And it's not worth it to me if I scale one aspect of my life, but the other one's not being scaled. The people I admire most are the ones who can kind of do it all. Now, stuff happens. Life isn't easy. Relationships are complicated, but like, this is, to me, that's what success looks like.
Awesome.
So,
Ryan, thanks for being here. Good luck with your interview.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate you, brother. See you soon.
There's a couple. We're gonna as Ryan bows out, we're gonna keep going with a few more of these questions. The first, I'm gonna answer one in the chat of how did Ryan and I meet, and that is that we met playing Halo as 20-year-olds at Brigham Young University, and his friends and my friends, we were close for one reason: we like to play video games together. And I remember really the first real conversation that I remember with Ryan is sitting next to him, and I was really interested in startups, although I didn't really have something that I was, I didn't have an idea. I was just sort of lost, and I was very young, and but wanting to get into it. And I had heard he was doing a startup, and I turned to him while we were playing, and I said, Ryan, I heard you're doing a startup. Like, what is it? And he's like, oh, we're doing surveys for college professors. And I was just like, oh, cool. And that was it. I didn't ask a single follow-up question. It sounded so lame and so boring to me. I didn't want anything to do with it. I didn't even take the opportunity to learn. It was really a poor financial decision on my part. Because I probably could have been in the garage with him in the basement working on that, but have been able to sort of follow him over that time and learn from him. And obviously, as he's now moved into sports and doing these other things, he's kept that same mindset, that same hustle that's made him great. And I think, again, to me, one of the great insights of this chat is that hopefully you can internalize it without learning the hard lesson. I actually personally have learned this hard lesson in building my company, is that the scaling part is actually easy. The nailing part is hard. And that's why you're tasked as the founder to figure that out. And if you can, it can be very special. If you try to outsource it, it can be very, very painful. We're going to do a couple more of these questions. We're going to move to Cecil, the founder of PrimeChat.ai. If you could return to when you were building your first community, what advice would you give? David Spinks, who is one of the preeminent people that talks about community, you can go follow him on Twitter or get his book called The Business of Belonging. He talks about actually building a community is about building fans. When people say they want to build a community, they want to have fans. And so, building fandom is about getting people to love what you're doing or to have people want to be a part of what you're doing. That could be the values that you have. That could be your vibe, your aura, your the way that they feel when they're around you. But I think if I could return to, if I started a new community, I would not worry about the size. I would only worry about getting 10 or 20 people who loved it, who were raving fans about it, who spent a significant amount of their extra time doing it, or if I could help them make money, and it was a way that helped them, pay their bills or support their family. I would start with a very, very small group of people, and I would be maniacally focused on making their lives better. And then if it grew from there, it grows from there. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. I would still have had an important impact on them. That's really how a lot of great communities start. It starts from a very small group of passionate people, and it goes from there. I'm going to jump to some of the questions here in the chat because I think with people that are actually here, that could be maybe a little bit more relevant than some of the people that aren't here. So this is a question from Mayur Makwana. Nice to meet you. What is your strategy employed gaining first 5 customers while iterating your product in SaaS? Ryan mentioned that we started Bevy. That's the platform actually that you're on today that Startup Grind uses. This is a product that we developed for Startup Grind that we spun out into a SaaS company. We got our first customers in 2015, or I'm sorry, 2016. And those first 5 customers were complete grit and passion and hustle to go get and convince to try to come along the journey with you, to beg and plead in any way possible to get them to trust in you that you can support them in what they're doing. And I set a goal in the first 6 months of us selling the product. I set a goal to close 10 companies. And of the first, I ended up getting about 6 of the 10 in those first 6 months. And several of those never paid us. So they weren't the best customers. But some of them I was able to close on 1 or 2 conversations. Some of them, when I gave them the price, they laughed and never talked to me again. Some of them said, wow, this is pretty cheap. I would have paid more, but I'll take the price you gave me. All of these kinds of things fed into the machine of us learning how to create the product and the organization that we were going to create. One of the things that happened about 3 or 4 months into those 6 months was I met someone from Atlassian, and they were looking at a product like the solution that we had, and they allowed us to pitch, and we stayed up from Thursday all the way through till the Tuesday when we pitched. We just worked the entire time. We built an entire demo for them, so it looked exactly like what they were going to have. There was no imagining it. We put all this blood, sweat, and tears into it. And by the way, we've done that a lot of times since, and sometimes it's worked and sometimes it hasn't. But in this moment, everyone that we had on the team is probably 6 or 7 people. We all put in 100% energy. I stayed up and filmed a PDF video that one of the people we sold to mentioned to me not too long ago that they remember it was 2 a.m. and my voice is hoarse, and I made a PDF with little screenshots with video at the bottom they could click on, and it was me talking through that part of the product. And they were so impressed by that the company that they were using, to Ryan's story about Qualtrics about Omniture and Google Analytics, the company they were using, they had raised $15 million. They were well established. They had great investors. We didn't even have a website. And somehow the solution that they had was so not suited to solving their problem that they were willing to consider a startup like us and eventually choose us. And I'll share 2 anecdotal pieces of the ending of that story. One is that the day before I went in, actually they told us we lost the deal, and I went to meet with the VP to kind of just voice my frustration because I thought we were going to win, and I thought we deserved to win, and I was feeling pretty entitled about it. And I went in to meet with her at Atlassian's office, and I sat in the room with her, and I'd never met her in person. And the first thing she said to me was, "Tell me why I'm making a huge mistake." And as soon as she said that, I immediately understood, wait, she hasn't made a decision. We could win this. And all of my anxiety and frankly, anger and frustration, I put it on the side. I put it on the shelf and I put my ego on the shelf for a minute. And I just focused on getting this deal done. And in 90 minutes, I walked out. I wish I could have had a video of seeing my reaction walking out. I wanted to high five myself, or I was laughing because it was so utterly ridiculous what had happened. It was crazy what had happened. And a few weeks later, we were trying to close it, and she emails me, the same person, and she says, I'm trying to get it was like at 11 or 12 at night. And she's like, I'm trying to get the COO to sign this thing. Where is your website? I can't even find your website. And it was true that we didn't have a website. And the reason we didn't have a website is because I had shipped so many products over the previous few years that were so bad and that didn't have a market for and that customers didn't want, that I was determined that with this product, customers were going to have to beg us for this thing, because I didn't want to create a signal that I had marketed or that I had invented. And so I said, well, just send him to Startup Grind. Like that's it. That's Bevy. Bevy is Startup Grind. Like it's that product. And and I just remember sending that email and just like, am I now going to lose this after all of this? And we didn't. They signed with us, and the next month we incorporated our company. To what Ryan said, and to the question earlier about when do I know? When do I start doing these things? When do I start talking about it? Wait as long as you can. Get customer validation. Get revenue. Get people to say they'll pay for it. Do all those are the things that really matter. Having an incredible website, having flashy investors. When we got Excel, who's one of the top 2 or 3 investors in the world, when we got them to invest in our company, to be very frank, my ego was stroked pretty hard. I thought it was pretty cool, because now finally Excel had validated my work and my ideas. But actually, what I've come to find out now years later is, yeah, for like a week after it was announced, I felt like I was the king of the world. But actually, it quickly dissipated, and then it didn't matter. What matters, and what I really, really appreciate, what I deeply care about, is how my customers think about me when they renew a contract, when they give me tough feedback because I know they care, when they give me positive feedback and I know there's somebody that doesn't give positive feedback a lot. Those are the things that deeply matter to me in running my business. Those are the things, those are the metrics that actually matter. And look, why are we all doing this? We're doing this because we feel driven to get our ideas out there. We're doing this because we want to help our families. We're doing this because we want to help other people's families. We want to have people working with us. We want to support them as well. There's all sorts of good reasons we're doing this. But if you don't have customers who care about what you're doing, and if you don't have customers that will pay you for what you're doing, it doesn't matter how good your deck looks. It doesn't matter how stacked your founding team is. None of that stuff matters. You will not survive. And in my experience, startups are mostly about survival. If you can do enough to outlast your competitor, to have more cycles of creativity, you can't make catastrophic mistakes. You can't, got like a thumbs up bubble there. That's kind of cool. You can't, you can't get in a position where your spouse or your partner comes to you and says, you're ruining our family because we have no money and we put everything into this, and now like we're going to lose everything. You can't paint yourself into that corner. You can't paint yourself you can't make the mistakes of being impossible to work with. You can't make the mistakes of caring only about yourself and not trying to look out for your founders equally as much. You can't make those mistakes. But if you work hard, and if you don't make catastrophic mistakes, and if you don't paint yourself into a corner, and I think a lot of success in startups is just surviving. And right now, especially, it is very, very hard. There's so many people flooding out the doors of startups. There's so many people flooding out the doors of tech. It's not cool to be in tech anymore. This is the worst time to be a CEO or in the C-suite of a tech company that it's been in the last 10 years, 12 years, 13 years, maybe since the Great Recession in 2009. This is the worst time. So if you're here and you're in it, then you probably want to be here very, very badly. But if you want to be here in 3 or 4 years, you're going to have to really, really want it. And are you wanting, as Ryan said, the financial outcome, or are you here for the journey? Are you here for the impact you're going to have on your customers? Are you here for the good that you're going to do in the world? Those are the things that are going to get you through the really, really hard weekends where you have to convince everyone to work through the weekend to try to get a deal that may or may not actually happen. That's the thing you got to really look in yourself right now. Do I really, really want it? And I'll tell you, for my own self, I have made that evaluation. I have reevaluated it in the last 6 or 8 or 9 months. In spite of really hard things I've been through, I'm not comparing them to you. Everyone, there's this quote that if you assume everyone's going through hard things, when you look at someone, you'll be right at least 50% of the time. So I know the vast majority of people here, whether it's personal or professional, you're going through something hard, and I empathize with you. But you got to decide if you're in it. And I mentioned this deal that we just signed that I've been working on. I looked up the emails, October 2016, and every year I would email him, "Hey, just checking, how you doing? Can we work together? Hey, how you doing?" 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. I thought I was going to sign it in 2021. I thought we were going to sign it in 2022. Didn't get signed. 2023. It is not the biggest deal I've ever been a part of. It is not the most financially lucrative deal. But for me personally, it is one of the biggest deals I've ever signed, because it means to me that I'm still here, that I'm still in it, that I'm going to be relentless. And they're gonna have to take me out on a stretcher. I'm in it. So, and I'm here with you, and you all are here too. So I'm grateful for you being here. Grateful for you participating. We didn't get to like 90% of the questions, so I'm so sorry. I'm gonna try to talk to Ryan and see if we can. If this went well, maybe we should do it again. If not, Ryan, we'll get somebody else that, he's unbelievably busy. I can't believe he even made time to be here today. It was very thoughtful of him. Putting Reed Hastings, the chairman and the former CEO of Netflix, the co-founder of Netflix, sat him in the room and said, "You know what? I'm going to go meet with the Startup Grind community and those entrepreneurs. That's more important than the relationship that I can build with Reed Hastings." I'm so grateful that he made that sacrifice for us. But hopefully we'll do this again. Take the survey. Let us know. We can never do it again. If you hated it, if you like it, we'll do it again next month. We'll find someone else, or we'll get Ryan to come back. But thanks for being here. Again, a huge thanks to Microsoft for all their support of our community. M365, Office, PowerPoint, Excel, Teams, all those products, they actually give it to startups in our community for free. So just sign up. You don't have to start using it today if you don't want to, but at least get signed up with some of the licenses that we still have, and the links here in the chat. Have a great day. Stay positive. Keep doing good things. Keep grinding. We'll talk to you soon. Thanks.